Hello students, today we are going to learn Discovering Tut, a saga continues. What is saga? Saga is a long story. And who is Tut? Tut is a teenager king. Okay, teenager king of Egypt who ruled 3,300 years ago. Now, his tomb was, the Egyptian kings, they were buried in pyramids. You must have seen pyramids. And the discovery site where his tomb was found is KB 62. Now, he is actually Tutankhamun, and in short, he is known as Tut. And who is Tut? He is the last heir. Heir means who? An inheritor or a successor of a powerful pharaoh dynasty in Egypt which ruled for centuries. King Tut's father or grandfather or great-great-grandfathers, they ruled Egypt for centuries. And King Tut is the last of them. And King Tut was discovered by Howard Carter, a British archaeologist, in 1922. And a person called Lord Carnarvon, he entrusted Howard Carter to look for this particular tomb. And after a very long time, Howard Carter found the tomb of King Tut under, there was, barracks of, huts were made, barracks were made for, workmen. So, in the ruins of the, workmen huts, Howard Carter, he found out King Tut's tomb. And next, when King Tut's tomb was found, Lord Carnarvon, he visited the tomb and he died after 4 months. And at that time it was said that it was the curse of the pharaohs. So it was famously said as curse of the pharaohs because the Egyptians believed that nobody should enter any pharaoh's tomb, and if somebody enters, they will be cursed by the pharaohs. It was believed, and when Lord Carnarvon died, it was also believed in the same manner. Now, this particular chapter, it tells us about, it gives us, idea about King Tut. As I have written here, you can see, King Tut, he was a teenager king who ruled Egypt for 9 years. He was just a teenager, remember, and he died mysteriously. And what people believe that murder being the most extreme possibility. People thought this particular, the last heir, must have been murdered. And the archaeologists, they are trying to figure out what is the reason behind King Tut's death. Now, what is archaeology? I have mentioned archaeologists. What is archaeology? Archaeology is the branch of, it's a science. It's a part of history. So what archaeologists do? They figure out the lives of, the people from the ancient time using certain technologies. Now, the modern archaeologists, on 5th June 2005, they took out King Tut's mummy. You must have seen in, films about mummies, how mummies are kept in, inside the pyramids. You must have seen that. So King Tut's mummy was taken out for a CT scan. You know what is a CT scan? It's a computer tomography for a forensic reconstruction. Means it looks into how, his body was, how he might have died, what might have inside him. So it looks for that. So computer tomography actually it is a kind of X-ray. You must have seen X-ray films. So it's different from the normal X-ray. So it gives series of cross section of the whole body actually. Now this particular CT scan and this particular forensic investigation, it was carried out by Jahi Hawass. Who is Jahi Hawass? The Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. Means he is the person who looks after all these mummy things and looking after the whole process of King Tut's forensic investigation. So now it is said that King Tut's tomb, it is the richest collection ever found with stunning artifacts of pure gold. So King Tut is his tomb, when Howard Carter opened it, he found this particular Howard Carter, this particular archaeologist, he found everything that was present inside the tomb was made of pure gold. Alright, what were they? They are precious collars made of gold, inlaid necklaces, bracelets, rings, amulets, worn on arms, sandals, sheets for fingers, sheets means the false nails and toes, the inner coffin and the mask. All these were made of pure gold. And one more thing, Egyptians believed in life after death. Means when a person died, they also have a life after his death. So this is the belief of the Egyptians, and that is the reason why King Tut was buried with such wealth, and he was also buried with everyday things like board games, razors, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine, and his coffin was decorated with garlands of willow, olive leaves, lotus petals, cornflowers, and all this suggests what? That his burial was taken place in the months of March or April. That means King Tut died in the month either in March or April. Now, why Jahi Hawass and his team, why they are taking out King Tut's mummy for this forensic investigation? Actually, they are trying to figure out what were the reasons behind his death. What reasons were there? And before going to that, in 1968 also, an anatomy professor, he x-rayed King Tut's body and he found that his front ribs were missing. His front ribs were missing. And after 80 years of his discovery in 1922, after 80 years, on 5th January, his body was taken out from his grave or the burial place for a CT scan, and Jahi Hawass's team, they were looking to figure out, if they can, give any conclusion to the death of King Tut. Next, King Tut's body or his grave or his tomb is visited by people all around the world, and I'm going to put some pictures here also. You can see the picture, and tourists, they visit his tomb And as the tourists, they enter the tomb, they have to, go through a staircase and they have to go inside underground. And the tomb was, like 26 feet under the earth. So you can imagine 26 feet they have to go down to visit King Tut's tomb. And when Howard Carter found out his tomb in 1922, he learned that his tomb was looted or robbed, like around 2 times. And as one goes down the stairs, they can see the murals, means the paintings on the wall. And also I have put some pictures here, you can see it. And when King Tut's grave was opened, he was covered with a gild. So gild means a mask made of pure gold. So King Tut's body was gilded, and his body was kept in a mummy-shaped coffin. And he was put in 3 nested coffin. You imagine. And inside there is the first coffin, and another coffin is there, and there is a final coffin. So he was put under 3 coffins, and it is called 3 nested coffin. And the first coffin, it was covered with a shroud. You know what is a shroud? Shroud means when a dead body is covered with a cloth. That particular cloth is called a shroud. And here King Tut's shroud was decorated with, I have already mentioned you, decorated with garlands of willow and olive leaves, lotus petals, and corn flowers. One important point I would like to add here is that, as I've already mentioned you, that King Tut's body was put in gold coffins. Means everything was made of gold. And it is also said, I have already mentioned, that this particular tomb was the richest royal collection ever. Means, what are the pyramids or what are the tombs were found, they are all collected in the modern time by the Egyptian authorities, and they are put in the museums also. And here you must know one thing: the shift of archaeology from treasure to fascinating details of life and death. What is this shift? Means the older archaeology during the time of Howard Carter, what they look for? They actually look for treasure. And that is the reason why King Tut's coffin was broken. You can see the picture. I have put a picture here. The whole coffin was put in a gold coffin, and inside this gold coffin, King Tut's mummified body was put in resins. You know what is resins? Resins are natural glue from trees, and these resins, they work as preservators also. So whatever put inside a resin becomes a mummy. In science you can say a kind of fossil. So here King Tut's body was mummified under resins, and Howard Carter thought this resin can be melted in the sun, because Egypt is an African country, and there there is the sun produce it is almost near the equator, so the sun produce very high temperature on the sand during the daytime. And Howard Carter thought he can melt the resins, but the resins could not be melted. And finally, what he did, he cut the whole body from major joints, from the neck, from the arms, from the hips. So in that manner, he separated the gold coffin and the body. And finally what he did, he took away the gold coffin and reassembled the body, on a stand in a wooden box. You imagine a wooden coffin. So King Tut's body presently is in the same wooden coffin which was actually provided by King Tut, and he took away the gold coffin. And he gave what reasons he gave. He said that if he did not do it, then thieves would have certainly taken away. But then the main thing is that I have already mentioned you, the older archaeology was about treasure. But the modern archaeology, which this particular person Jahi Hawaz and his team are doing, actually what they wanted to know? They wanted to know the fascinating details of life of King Tut and what happened after his death, or what were the reasons of death. But then from this computer tomography, they could only make out the computerized three-dimensional picture of King Tut, and not more than that, because the body is mummified and they could not do much about it. And here I would also like to mention the family tree. So a bit of history here. Amenhotep III. It is King Tut's father or grandfather. It is not very clear. Actually, his father or grandfather. He was a very powerful pharaoh who ruled Egypt for almost 40 years. And after his death, Amenhotep IV, it is supposed to be the son of Amenhotep III. So he was a strange ruler. So what Amenhotep IV did, why he is called strange? Because he worshipped Aten, the sun disk, means the sun god. And what he did? He destroyed Amun. Amun means, you can say, moon. So he destroyed Amun's temples, and he also changed his name to Akhenaten. And he also shifted the capital of the religious capital of Egypt from Thebes to Avarna, which is also known as city of Akhenaten. And after his death, so what Amenhotep IV did, he made a major change in the system of the Egyptian people, and it is said that the fall of this particular dynasty, might have been the curse of Amun. So it is believed like that. May be possible or may not be, but stories like that. And after Amenhotep IV, there was another ruler by Smenkhkarê, and he was a mysterious ruler who didn't rule for long, and he also died soon, and his death was also a mystery. And after that, our king Tutankhamun ascended the throne, and Tutankhamun, he restored what were destroyed by Akhenaten. He worshipped Amun, and he changed his name to Tutankhamun, and he restored what Amenhotep IV destroyed. And this discovery of King Tut and other mummies or the other pyramids was taking place under this Egyptian mummy project, and it was started in 2003. Almost 600 mummies were discovered, and this whole narrative, the whole story, you can imagine this whole story in the form of a program you must have seen such programs on History TV or National Geographic or Discovery channels. This is that kind of a program. This whole chapter you can imagine as you read it. And after that, the National Geographic, channel, society, not channel, the National Geographic Society and Siemens, the company which produced CT scanner machines and such other, medical or equipments. So they donated one CT scanner machine to this particular mummy project, and King Tut's body was scanned in that particular CT scanner machine, and in that manner, like around 1700 X-ray pictures were taken out, and finally this particular mummy of King Tut was put into the resting place, that is his tomb, back in the Valley of the Kings. Valley of the Kings, where other tombs are also present around. So you can see in your book there is a map. So there is the Valley of the Kings, where lots of tombs were discovered later on. So this is the story of King Tut. Thank you very much.